The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, trick-taking game, a cooperative quest through Middle-earth. So, if you're familiar with the game The Crew, you may have played in the past a trick-taking game that takes the general idea, very well known, very famous, and turns it into a cooperative, story-driven experience. Here we have the general philosophy of that game applied to The Fellowship of the Ring. You have 18 scenarios, which may be a good idea to play in order, both because the complexity increases and because of narrative reasons, and those 18 scenarios cover very important, well-known episodes of The Fellowship of the Ring. So these scenarios, the trick-taking game, will retell the story or cover the main events. So it's a trick-taking game. You are gonna play it with usually at least 3 people. There's a 2-player variant, but I haven't played it. So I played the regular version with 3 and with 4 players, family members. Then there's also a solo variant, which I used to finish the scenarios once the weekend was over and my family got busy, and at night I would be playing the scenarios solo. So we have the scenarios. Each scenario has a card like this that tells you which characters are available. Here, for example, we're at the beginning. I'm going to show you only the first scenario because I don't want to give you spoilers. The other scenarios are hidden under these cardstock cover protectors here. So there is a point, I guess they're making a point that you should discover the story only as you go. These are the characters that are available, and some are mandatory. You can't start the journey without Frodo and Bilbo, for example. Also, it tells you what the victory conditions are based on. Each character has a specific goal that they're trying to accomplish. For example, win 3 or more tricks, win or 4 more ring cards, and so on and so forth. If the scenario is short, as it says here, all you need to do is to complete the objectives of the characters that you have in play. Now, some scenarios will have a longer list of characters here, and it'll say it's a long scenario, in which case you need to complete all of the goals of all of the characters listed here. Suppose that we have these 4 characters plus other ones, then we need to play over multiple rounds. So we play with these 4 characters, we complete their objectives, now we take the remaining characters from that list and we try to complete those. So the idea is that either you win a round completing all of the objectives of the characters in play for that round, that's for a short scenario, or you complete all the objectives of all the characters over multiple rounds in a long scenarios, which also means some of these characters may participate in multiple rounds in long scenarios. The cards, usually when you shuffle the deck, you will have a card that is placed next to the chapter card. It's called the lost card. There may be effects that will interact with that card that is set aside. The deck in general has regular suits, shadow, hill, forest, and mountain, that have numbers from 1 to 8. And then we have a special suit, the rings, only has 5 cards with values from 1 to 5. And then you have the super trump card, of course, is the 1 ring, the 1 of rings, and whoever plays it can simply choose to win that trick. You shuffle the deck, and in the normal variants, 3 players and up, or you assign every card to the players. So players will have a full understanding of what they have in their hand. The player with the 1 ring becomes Frodo. That seems pretty self-explanatory, and then the other players will receive the other characters. And now everybody has a hand of cards. I'm just putting kind of like a random number of cards. Every character has their hand of cards, which will be bigger than this, and it's time to start playing. It's a trick-taking game. So 1 player will play a card in the middle, and the other players have to play a card of the same suit if they can, otherwise they can play another suit. And suppose, oh, Bilbo doesn't have any hills. But here we have, but Gandalf plays a 4 of heals, and the Pippin plays an 8 of heals, which is not so good because Pippin is gonna win, but he is a humble guy, and so his objective is to win the fewest tricks. When all is said and done, the player who played the highest card of the leading trick wins the trick. The player who played the highest card of the leading suit wins the trick, collects the card, and you want to keep track of how many tricks each player won. And now Pippin goes, and we continue like that. Now, an important element. Oh, Bilbo. Oh man, Bilbo won that shadowy trick. Important thing. The rings, which I expected to be the trump suit, are not. But there's the one ring, which is the trump suit. And the rings, you want to be discreet about it, which I think really makes sense with the theme, so they don't come out too early, usually. Basically, players cannot lead a trick, open a trick by playing a ring, unless rings showed up in some of the tricks. So basically, if I don't have any card of the required trick or the required suit, say I'm playing that one, and oh no, I'm Bilbo, I don't have any forest, I cannot follow with the forest, but I have a ring, then I can throw a ring there as one of those cards that you can throw when you don't have the leading suit. At that point, after somebody plays a card with a ring as part of a trick, then people can start a trick with rings. And you have a token here that goes by the ring bearer. As a reminder that at the beginning of the trick or the round, the token is showing this darker side. When somebody throws a ring in there, then you're finally allowed. Like, you know what? Tricks are rings are part of the conversation now. And of course, Frodo's objective being to win 4 or more ring cards, only 5 in the game. That's a big consideration. That's the big consideration. Not easy for Frodo to win a ton of rings. But again, you also had the, remember, the Uber card, which just allows you to win the trick. You can choose to win the trick, but you don't have to. You can just play it as a regular 1 of rings, which is very important, of course, if you're trying to give this card to another player because reasons, I guess. So, this is how the game plays. Play pretty much like a regular trick-taking game, and if you complete all of the objectives of the characters, I'm going to show them to you so you get a sense. You win the game, especially again in a short scenario. Long scenario, all the objectives of all the characters of this scenario. So this is the intro scenario, which is going to be very quick, very simple, and pretty easy, honestly. You're not super likely to lose the game this early. But then you're going to have 17 more scenarios as unlocked or hidden under these covers here, with different other components, other cards, and especially more characters. And to me, that's kind of like the strength of the game. I really like all of the characters that you get to try, and I really like how they combined, again, the objectives, the needs of the characters, and the powers of the characters with the original theme. A certain character behaves in a certain way in the novel, then there are certain objectives that mirror that. It's still fairly abstract. You still need a card of a certain number, but it's somehow the fact that it matches at some high level the theme. It's an interesting element. Some characters are a lot tougher to complete, in my opinion. Elrond, hello. I wish you were less demanding, but that's maybe you play Elrond and you think it's totally easy. I found Elrond to be particularly annoying. These are the components the characters, especially with their objectives and sometimes with their powers. Also, the beginning of the turn with of the round. At the beginning, you may exchange cards with other people, although without planning ahead. So that's tricky, but it's a form of interaction there. Different objectives, different components, different rules. As I said, I do recommend playing them in order because some of the later scenarios have a lot more going on. So I played it with my family and we really enjoyed it. I know my kids have not read the book. My wife, maybe, but such a long time ago. So I was the one that was interested mainly in the narrative element, so to speak. But I still enjoyed it as a cooperative trick-taking game in which you're trying to deduce what other people have and they're likely to play based on what they already played, on what they are not playing. All the unspoken dialogue, because you're not allowed to communicate, of course, or that would be the fun. All the unspoken dialogue going on around those decisions, that's part of the fun, of course. Now, the solo version, I thought it would be particularly, once I read the rules, I thought it was going to be boring and cumbersome. It turned out to be quite enjoyable. It's pretty simple. You play with 4 characters. Now, in the regular version, each player receives all the cards, pretty much. So you have perfect information of what you're going to have, but limited information about what other people have. Here, you're going to play all your 4 characters. You're going to have 4 characters out, and each character receives a hand of 5 cards, so not the whole deck. And that's pretty much the idea. You play your little puzzle here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 here. You play your little puzzle. You play all cards from the characters. It's really a multiplayer solo here. It's really 4-handed solo. You play cards for all characters. And once you need to replenish, you draw them from the deck. And suppose here now Frodo plays a 6 of forest, Gandalf can't follow, Pippin can follow, but Pippin doesn't want to win a lot of tricks, so Pippin plays the 1, and the Bilbo needs to win a good number of tricks, so we waste the card, is not too important there. And there you go. That's how we resolved the first trick that goes to Frodo. I like to place the cards precisely like this so that I know who played what card. The trick goes to Frodo, and now each character receives a new card. When I'm playing solo, I don't bunch them up like this. Of course, I spread them out so I can see them all, and I also can play them easily. And that's how you play. It's a simple, nice puzzle, but again, nice being the word here. A lot more satisfying and enjoyable than I thought. I thought it was going to be abstract, but I think there was a nice, interesting set of decisions to make. A push your luck, because I don't know, well, I know which cards haven't come out yet, but I don't know who's going to get them. Interesting puzzle, and again, so I was able to play all of the scenarios when my family wasn't available and get into some of the more, as you expect, probably some of the more epic stuff that you have toward the end of the novel and toward the end of the scenario. So what do we have here? Trick-taking cooperative game. If you like the crew and you like the general idea of cooperative trick-taking, this is a nice implementation with, I believe, very cool, nice art. I really like the stained glass kind of style that we have, the art on the characters. All the components are very nice looking and pleasant. The rules are simple to follow. Huge replay value with 18 scenarios and then a way to play the game that doesn't follow any specific scenario. Huge replay value. So if you like Lord of the Rings and or cooperative trick-taking, this is a really nice implementation of that idea. I'm definitely very pleased and very happy with the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game.